I'm just laughing because I'm really not getting one bit better. The time goes, 2 weeks passes. Welcome, welcome to everyone. 2 weeks passes between the time when I'm supposed to do this and I forget. I just can't remember, and no one's here. So let me just say hello to everyone. LA, hello. Colorado, Illinois, North Carolina, hello, everybody. Hello, New Zealand. Hi, Leslie. Does the POM need to be made from a sheer fabric? No, not at all. The POM, oh my goodness, you guys, you're going to see what I'm going to do with it. We're making it from heavy fabrics. It's such a great transition pattern, if there's such a thing as a transition pattern, because you can do um, sheers and lightweights, or you can do wools and like cape weight fabrics. It's amazing. That POM is terrific. Jacksonville, hello, Barbara. Missouri, hi, Missouri. Australia, hello, hello. Greenville, South Carolina. I was there a couple weeks ago, like a week ago. Time goes so fast. It's been probably 2 weeks. You're right. But anyway, Greenville, South Carolina. My gosh, what a beautiful place. My big takeaway. I'm in Motown. Hey. All right, it's Charleston, South Carolina, the beautiful South. All right, so hey, Leslie, we don't have a lot going on tonight, but we're going to do a couple fun things that I kind of planned for tonight. Hello, we'll get everybody a chance to say hello. San Antonio, that's close to me. Who's San Antonio? Hey, Melanie. You guys, I feel like I know you. I know there's some of you I do, but some of you I've never met, but I still feel like I know you. Isn't that weird? Is that a phenomenon called an internet knowing or something like that? It's still hot here, but we'll be transitioning to milder weather soon. Yeah, and when it happens, you guys, it happens quick. So when it happens, we got to be ready. That's why our winter sewing is so important, to start doing it now. We've got all kinds of stuff, and I was on the phone and buying fabrics today, and oh my goodness, just bought some beautiful, beautiful things. So fortunately, we have some really good fabric guys and girls both, and I really just appreciate, they're always looking out for us. They're always looking out for what is good, and it's exciting. It's hot here too. I mean, my hot is probably different than your guys' hot. I love the heat because I get up early, and I love the if you get up early, then it's only 70. And so I love to get up early and take advantage of the 70-degree weather, and then I kind of stay inside and do my work and get all that stuff done all day. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start with a blouse, and we're going to start with I love that you guys. I went to I took a cooking class last night, and the cooking class, it was a salad class. It was a salad cooking class. Anyway, the guy teaching the class said, if you make up one of the salads and send me a picture, then I'll give you, where we were in a club, he said, I'll give you a lunch for four, a free lunch for four. I thought that reminds me of our POM club. If you make up the POM and send it to me, then we'll have a drawing for a gift certificate. I love it. We want to be effective. We want to know that somebody actually, is actually doing what we love to do. So I thought that was kind of fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me just make sure there's no questions coming in to start. Does the jacket you're wearing have shoulder pads? It does. This is 1952. This is the jacket we just did. This is the one on the cover, 1952. So yes, it does. It has half-inch shoulder pads, depending on the fabric. Usually in my summer jackets, because summer jackets are lighter fabric, I like a thinner shoulder pad. In my winter jackets, when you get to your heavier wools, that fabric kind of pulls down on the shoulder pad, and so I use a 1-inch shoulder pad, and it kind of looks like a half-inch shoulder pad. So that's where I use the two different sizes. It just depends on whether it's a lightweight linen summery jacket or whether it's a heavier, more wintry jacket. I make the distinction that way. I think it's not so much how big they are, it's how far out they are, and I put them at my shoulder. I'm 15 inches from seam to seam, and I really like that look, and so that's kind of what I base it on. Okay, so let's get to this first question, this first picture. We're going to start with a blouse. And this lady is making this blouse, and we're going to go over, she sent it in, and you guys have done all the work, so it's really nice. And it's not only the work for me, it's the work for all of us. It's really nice that you all send in these photos. I think it's great. So I wanted to talk about this because there's some key principles that we're missing. Now, a couple things I want you to remember is keep in mind that learning is layered. Learning is layered. So a lot of times it is the doing, and she mentions that she took the blouse class, but she still seems clueless. She's actually not clueless. She's actually really close, but sometimes we don't even know how close we are. So that's why I say sending these pictures in where I can use them on these Q&As is really helpful for everyone. So what I did is sometimes when I make the corrections, we can't see the original, so I decided to copy the original and make the corrections on the copy. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the picture on the left. That's the original. That's what she's made up. And she goes through and tells me the sizes and all that stuff, but none of that, it doesn't really matter. She knows the sizes, and the sizes are valid. So I want you to look at the circle that I've circled right there and notice all the wrinkles. And those wrinkles are caused, now keep in mind, and I want you to hear this, okay? If I measure from the base of the neck to her waist and call that measurement A, and I measure from the edge of the shoulder to her waist, and I call that measurement B, A is always going to be longer than B. A is always going to be longer than B. Okay? So when I have wrinkles in the B area, that's because not enough fabric is being taken away through the darts. You have two darts. You have a shoulder seam, you have a bust dart. So I have wrinkles. She has wrinkles. She has wrinkles in the B side from the shoulder to the waist. It's not in the middle. There's no wrinkles in the middle at all, so that length is okay. An uneven length is called depth. So it's the darting that is wrong. And so there's two things I want you to check. You should check the angle of the shoulder seam, which is a dart. You should check the bust dart. This bust dart is not big enough. I don't care what dart. She didn't even tell me what dart she used, but what cup size she used. But it doesn't make a difference. Even if she used the D cup dart, the dart is not big enough. So as you increase the dart and increase the shoulder seam, it will take away all that gapping along the B side of her blouse. All right. Now, the second thing that's wrong is her shoulders are too wide because she's gone to a larger size. She's gone to a larger size to accommodate her bust. And so what that leaves us with is the shoulders that are just like ridiculous on her. They just look crazy. Way too wide. I need to be specific. Instead of saying crazy, my apologies. They are way too wide. So I drew a red line on the picture of the right, and what you want is your shoulder seam to be somewhat straight up from the side of your body. That's a really good place to put a shoulder seam. So I drew that line, and then I drew the black line on the other side so that you could see that's where she should use her armhole templates. And her armhole templates, she says she's using a size 3 armhole and sleeve. The 3 sleeve looks fine, but the fact of the matter is it's way too wide. So take the armhole, put it at the 2 points, the shoulder seam and the side seam, the 2 points that you want your armhole to go to, and that's it. It will look amazing. It will look beautiful, and it will be exactly where you want it to be. Now, the third thing is, notice the sleeve has a twist to it. One-piece sleeves will always have a twist. Always. They are meant to have twists. They're meant for you to ignore the twist simply because the fabric is generally lightweight. This is actually a very, she actually mentions it's a broadcloth. Broadcloth has no drape to it, so you are going to get this kind of reaction to it. But when it's a lighter weight fabric and it's a silk, or it's a poly or something that's lighter weight, it will have a drape to it, and you will not notice that twist. Now, if you have the twist and the twist just drives you crazy, then you go in and you use a two-piece sleeve. There are two-piece blouse sleeves we have in the line and also in our pattern line, and also two-piece jacket sleeves. We have both just for this reason. When I'm going in and I'm making a jacket and it's a weightier fabric or a fabric that has less drape to it, then I'm going to go ahead and select a two-piece sleeve. And if you notice, a jean jacket, pattern number 900, is a two-piece sleeve. So we see two-piece sleeves all the time. We're just not really aware that they're two-piece sleeves. And two-piece sleeves are bent, and I can bend them. I talked about this Tuesday night when we were doing our jacket sew-along. When they're bent, I can bend them, and that's why the twist is there. The twist is there because it is a one-piece sleeve, and the sleeve is straighter than my arm. My arm has more bend to it than the sleeve, and that's why the twist happens from the elbow up. Okay, because the bottom of the sleeve is being dragged along. Okay, all right, so this next picture, same blouse, I want you to see the back. Now those wrinkles, again, are telling you that the shoulder angle is wrong. The shoulder angle is wrong. That's why all those wrinkles are there. When you do the bust dart and you do it larger, it will continue to the back seam, and you will see that it will clean up those angular wrinkles on the side. It will all happen all at one time. So however much larger you make the dart, you want to bring that amount around all the way across the back, and it will take up and fix those wrinkles on the back as well, also the shoulder angle. Notice again, I've taken the shoulder template, the armhole template, and I brought it in. So again, you place it in those 2 points. Your sleeve will have no changes. It will have no problem because you are using the size armhole that fits the sleeve. No changes should be done to the sleeve. Nothing. All right. I see that as very easy. Give me your feedback. Tell me what you all are thinking. So notice that her depth is off. Her depth should be increased. That will cause the B portion of that blouse to be corrected. Her armholes are too wide. I can take the template and put it wherever I want. And then of course I would ignore the ignore the bend in the sleeve, because the bend in the sleeve is just, most blouses you wear, just, it's not going to be a problem. It's just not going to be a problem. Okay? All right, so I'll give that just a minute. I'll let that sit with you. And we may have to jump back because I'm going to go on to this next one. But I'm okay with that. I can bring the pictures back up and we can look at that. Okay? All right, let's do that. Okay, so this next one. This is the jacket I have on, the jacket we did Tuesday night, 1952, the sew along. It is a fit to stitch pattern. It is Ellie Tahari was the original, I think, Ellie's pleated jacket, darted jacket, whatever you want to call it. Okay, Ellie's jacket. So this has darts coming. This is a beautiful jacket, beautiful jacket. I've made it numerous times. I've worn it. I love the colors I've made it in. It's just really, really pretty. Okay, so looking at this now, in her particular case, she needed to make that dart larger. Now it is already a D cup. Everyone can get by with a D cup the way I did it, so don't panic, just make it exactly as it is. However, in her case, the dart was not large enough. She needed to make it larger. So she made it larger in two different ways. On the left-hand side of the jacket, as we're looking at it, the left-hand side, she merely made the dart larger. Her comment was she didn't like it because she felt like the dart became too large. I don't think that's the case. I think it's simply, that's how I would do it. But you have to wear the jacket. You have to be comfortable with the jacket. So you can do it. No one's going to notice that dart is large. It's just not going to be noticed. The only reason you're noticing it is because of your sensitivity to it. So that's what I would do. Having said that, she went to the right side of the jacket and she decided she would take the dart through the another way, which is point A to point B, which is totally allowed. It is a dart, so the widest point is at center front. It's tapering to nothing at the armhole. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing it this way. She said the problem is that she loses the gap between her neckline. Okay, so you just redraw that gap. All you do is redraw it. That is a visual line, so decide how much gap you want, decide how much gap there was in the original, which is, I think it's about 1.5 inches between the two pieces, and simply redraw that. Then you have to recognize that you have to do the facing and you have to do the side lining as well. Okay, so you've got a front facing and a front lining, and those two pieces have to be changed because the front is being changed. No changes to the rest of the jacket. It all sews in just beautifully. So whenever we're dealing with fit and we're dealing with style, we can always restore the style. We can always draw it back, so there's never going to be an issue with that. There's never going to be a problem. Okay, so let me check Q&As back here for just a second. Always like to hear your reasoning for the decision you make. Good. You know, honestly, ladies, there is reason for just about everything. That doesn't mean you like the reason, but for me, this is all logic. This is all logic. It's patterns. It's, you know, it makes sense. Good. Good. And the more you hear it, I honestly believe these Q&As for me, for you all, should be replayed over and over again, because I honestly believe the more you hear it, I've had women say to me, I can't remember, I was in a conference last week, and a woman said to me, it took me 10 years, but boy, once I got it, I got it. But it took me 10 years. The only reason it took you 10 years is not because it's complex. It's simply because you were busy. We were busy in our lives. When we're busy in our lives, we don't necessarily pay attention to things we should. Now, that's not an excuse. That's just reality. We get busy. So things go askew, and we let them go askew because we're just simply busy. And that's all right. The good news is when you finally get to it, it does make sense. And we're able to dissect it. We're able to actually put it to task and utilize it the best we possibly can. Okay, this last question, and I want to spend a few minutes talking about this. It does make a lot of sense. Yeah, it really does. And that's the good news, you guys, because when something makes sense, you can logic your way through it. And logic is going to be your best friend. If you think about this, over the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it's been, we have had no logic. It's simply do A, do B, do C, and then, you know, there's the result. And if it goes askew, we have absolutely zero logic to help us go through the process. I want you to have logic. I want you to have reasoning. I want you to understand so that when it goes askew, you can go back and say, okay, wait a minute. Let me figure out what I did wrong, because I know it will work. It's logical that it will work, but somehow I've done something wrong. I cannot tell you. I mean, I wish I could take a little camera to every class I go. How many mistakes are made? And the problem is through the process. I mean, as we're going through the process, the problem is that we're doing this by ourselves, and so we have no one to say, oh, here's your mistake. We have to find it ourselves, and sometimes that can be very time consuming. So one of the reasons I offer this Q&A is so that you can send me those photos. You can say, okay, I need some help doing this. Let me figure out what's going on. Okay, my muslin of the pleated jacket is too long. I don't want to destroy the hem, so it's a waistline alteration, right? No. It took me 10 years too. That's cute. Well, the good news is I'm still here. Susan, the muslin of the pleated jacket is, you can shorten it. You should shorten it. And again, all you're redrawing is the separation, the front line. So all you have to do is redraw that. You don't have to change it elsewhere. You should have two lengths in your jacket. It's the base of the neck to bust and bust to waist. The waist to hem is only style. So that's where it should be changed and altered and then brought back to what you want it to be. So not to worry. It doesn't really matter either way. I think it's easier to change the bottom hem personally. Yes, while I've been on vacation, I've been reading sewing books and reviewing videos. Good. I guess that's good if it's your vacation. Depends on what you want to do on vacation. I was talking to someone last night. There's a book club that I started going to, but I'm very, I really want to go, but I'm very challenged with time and, you know, but I really want to read. I've been doing more reading lately, and I think it's really healthy for me. And yet somebody else in the class said, all I do is read, and I just love to read, and I can't get enough to read. And I said, I'll make you a deal. You read for me, and then just give me the cliff notes, and I'll attend for so that we can both, do this together. But anyway, we just both thought that was funny. There's nothing worse than not having the answers of how to fix a problem. I agree. I absolutely agree. So let us help you. Okay, so now I'm going to go back, and I had a request for, and this is the question, I'm going to read it to you. In various social media posts, I saw some concerns about what would happen to pattern printing on tissue given the upheaval in the mass pattern printing business. We trust you to give us your take on it. I would like to comment on this. I really appreciate the pictures that were sent in, and seeing the corrections really makes sense. I find this very helpful. Good. So recognize that when these ladies send in these pictures, it does, you ladies, I'm going to say, it benefits all of us. We all get to benefit from that. Remember too, Janet, when you don't know the answer, L, C, and D. L, C, and D. L, C, and D. Fix it with L, which is taking it up or down the same amount all the way across. Fix it with circumference, going to one size or another. If those don't work, you know it has to be a D answer, and the D will give you the answer. L, C, and D. The definition of fit is when the length, circumference, and depth of the garment matches the length, circumference, and depth of the pattern. Those two have to align. If they're not, I can change them, and I can change each one individually. I don't have to just go for a mass answer. I got to figure out which one it is and go from there. Okay, so I have wanted to address this for a little while, but however, I've been behind the scenes for for many years in the pattern industry, 28 plus years actually, as a matter of fact. So there's lots of things that I have had an ability to do, and they're not anything I would talk about with you all because there was no reason to talk about them. It was just something that I was doing on the side. I don't have as much as I would like to switch to audiobooks when doing mundane tasks. That's actually a good idea. Oh, you're right. That's a good idea. I could actually read the book on audio tasks. That's a really good idea while I'm sewing. That's a great idea. Great suggestion. I can be in my book club and still get to read. All right. I want to go back now to, again, I'm going to give you a little time frame of the pattern industry. The silhouette pattern started in 1997. 1997 was actually the year I started the pattern company, incorporated silhouette patterns in 1997. In 1998, a company called Consew bought silhouette patterns. Consew was a gift company. It was a gift wrapping, ribbon, all kinds of craft items like that. So Consew purchased Simplicity Pattern Group. They renamed the whole entire thing Simplicity Pattern Group. There was a gentleman who was the president of Consew. His name was Kerry Finley. Kerry Finley contacted me in 2001 and asked me if I would do some consulting for Simplicity Patterns. He said that there were good, like knowing why. Okay. So he said that he wanted me to do consulting for Simplicity Patterns. He said they were struggling with the issues of fit, and he had heard, with names that somehow I had an answer for fit. So I met with him in New York in the summer of 2001. Well, early summer, like May of 2001. Prior to that meeting, he asked me to come to the meeting with some hard evidence of why Simplicity Patterns were not fitting. On the phone conversation, I told him I had theories as to why they were not fitting, and he wanted me to bring concrete evidence to the meeting of why they weren't fitting. We met for breakfast. I showed him what I had discovered, and he was not a pattern maker, but I put it in layman's terms to where anyone could understand it, and he was concerned. He asked me and said that they had, and I don't want to drag this out, but I do want to tell you that I want you to be able to understand the timeline, because you can trace the timeline back to what happened with silhouette pattern, to Simplicity Patterns. Judy Raymond at that time was the vice president. Frank Rizzo was the president of Simplicity. Have both of them still on my cell phones. They were good people, good friends. For those ladies who went on the New York fabric buying trip during those years, we toured through Simplicity Patterns. They were not competitors, they were friends. We were all in the same business, and I did not feel threatened by them, and they certainly did not feel threatened by me. Okay, so going back to Kerry Finley, he asked me if I would attend the meeting that they had later on that day. I said I would. He said, I want you to point these issues out to our pattern makers. I said I would. So I went to that meeting, pointed these problems out to the pattern makers, and the pattern makers were really upset. They were really upset. Mr. Finley assured anyone I was not there to take their jobs. We simply had a problem we were trying to fix. I was showing them the problems. And so we continued. I went home. I went back to Dallas. Approximately a week later, they extended to me an offer to buy Silhouette Patterns and put it within a pattern company within a pattern company. They would put Silhouette Patterns within Simplicity Patterns, and they offered me a job at Simplicity Patterns, and but I could still stay in Dallas. I could commute back and forth. In 2000, I declined all of that. In 2002, Simplicity Patterns. Now I'm going to take you back just a little bit. In 1998, when Conso acquired Silhouette Pattern Group, the annual sales of Simplicity Patterns were 125 million in sales. Now take a breath at that. 125 million in sales. In 2002, they released a Simplicity Pattern Company Group, whatever you want to call it, released a pattern line with B, C, and D cup. After I denied the offer and said, you know what, I don't want to take advantage of this, Mr. Finley said, we are well within our rights to copy exactly what you're doing. I said, of course, if my job only exists to make you all better at what you do, then copy me, please copy me. Well, they did copy me. The only problem is they didn't do it correctly. And if you go back to those patterns, 2002, they released a fit line. Simplicity Patterns released a fit line, and that fit line was poorly done. In fact, it did not last. It lasted for several years, but it did not last. That brings us to a few years where Conso split again from Simplicity because Simplicity was losing ground. More and more people were pulling away. In 2013, that split happened. In 2017, they sold Simplicity again to CSS. In 2020, they sold it to IG Design Group. In 2025, High-Low Capital was hired to liquidate, and of course Chapter 11 bankruptcy came soon after. In that meeting in 2001, and this is not to toot my horn, I promise it's not, I said to them, if you do not make these changes, you will not be able to continue because no one will fit your sizes. No one, their size range was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They did not revamp with the current sizing. So the reason I tell you this brief is to let you know I saw this coming. McCall's printed my patterns. In 1997, McCall's printed my patterns. I tried to do a contract with McCall's, and at that time they said, we'll do a contract, but keep in mind that the biggest person in the room wins, and you have no defense if we do a contract. You're the little person. I said, you're right, no contract is needed. So I didn't do a contract. What I did is I started looking for an alternative way to print my patterns. Now this haunted me for many, many years. I had my sweetheart at the time was a printer and kept saying to me, you must go to plan B. You must go to plan B. And all along I kept saying, yeah, I'm busy tomorrow. But when the four companies merged and they did away, they didn't just do away with McCall's in Manhattan, Kansas. They destroyed the machines. The machines were melted down. So that's a massive act of destruction. And prior to that, I knew about a year before it was happening, I went berserk. I went into full-on mode on how we were going to print our own patterns. We print our own patterns. We've bought printing equipment. It has been a difficult process, to say the least. We have bought I covered all the bases. I won't bore you with the story, but it is a fascinating story of how we are surviving without them, because I felt like the demise was inevitable. They went a little longer than I predicted. They went 24 years instead of 20 years, but they are gone. I honestly believe, I hate to say this, but you all will please understand that them going away has many, many positives. And many positives bloom out of the fact that they are no longer there. It is timed well with Joann's, because Joann's, the way the patterns were sold in the stores was that Joann's controlled the pattern companies. They controlled everything about them. They controlled their price. I went into Hancock's. Hancock's put my patterns in their stores in 2010, 2011, right before they went bankrupt. And we were in 20 stores or 25 stores. I don't remember the number, to be honest. Plenty of chatter on the line that Big Four patterns don't fit. So many small independents sprung up in the last decade. Yeah. So keep in mind that when I went into Hancock's, we went into 20 stores. That was a large venture for us. They wanted us eventually, obviously, to go into all those stores. But what happened is we learned the corporate world. And what we learned was that we couldn't work well within the corporate world because they were, we just couldn't work. I don't know how else to say that. We just couldn't work within the corporate world. So we decided not to move forward. There was a very kind lady who was the pattern buyer who actually wrote me a check for everything we had invested in Hancock Pattern. Had I not had that lady, because this was a good amount of money, I don't know what we would have done. She was my friend. You know, she was my friend, and she was looking out for us. She was looking out for the little guy over the corporate. Anyway, she paid for all the patterns, and shortly after, Hancock went bankrupt. So we did not lose anything in that venture with Hancock Fabrics, but we could have lost quite a bit. We had close to $250,000 tied in with Hancock Fabrics. So the amount of money that the pattern companies lost when Joann went bankrupt, and how they went bankrupt, because they went bankrupt and then they went bankrupt and then they went bankrupt, and the pattern companies had no alternatives. They had not, I'm going to say they had not seen it coming. They had not been the little guy who was going to die if it happened. And so they didn't diversify their sales. They had many opportunities to, but they didn't. They didn't do trade shows. They pulled out of all of that. So the only way they had to market their patterns was the way they were doing it through Joann's. And once Joann's went under, the writing was on the wall that the pattern companies were going to follow. So do I think it's a problem? I do. I do. Because whenever there's a shortage to the customer, the consumer, which is you all, I see that as being a problem. I think alternatives will arise. If we can print, others will figure out how to print. There is a way to print completely on your own. I'm not going to tell you it's an easy process, but there is a way to print. So it is fascinating to me. And the way I look at it is the field is white, all ready to harvest, and there's all kinds of ideas that I'm working on. So stay tuned in the next few months to see what we can actually make happen and what we will not be able to make happen. But I'm actually very excited about this, but that's because I'm a player in this field, not a consumer in this field. So history is so interesting of how you arrived at this moment. You would not ever know how many twists and turns we've taken, you guys. We're so interested you had the foresight to print your own patterns. This sounds like it was a huge undertaking. It was. And I have to admit that there was customers along the way, and I can't name names because they don't want to be named, who helped us finance this equipment. This equipment was not inexpensive. The software alone was not inexpensive. So when I reached out, there were some times when I reached out and said, hey, you know, we could use some funding. It's not that we probably couldn't have funded it another way, but our interest rates would have been higher, and the amount of money that, you know, we could save was enormous. So for those who helped fund that equipment, I can't say thanks enough. It really was you all, you know, and maybe not you exactly, but it was you all. Okay, so that's my take on it all. It has been coming for a very long time, you guys. I know you all know that. You may not know the details of what I'm sharing with you tonight, but you know that that these problems have existed for a very long time. Simplicity Pattern Company was sold 4 times in the 90s. You cannot use a company. The reason they sell companies off is to bleed the money out of them, and a company that doesn't put the money back into education, to product development, just normal company things, will die. And that's exactly what happened, except they lasted even longer. It is not a sign of how many women are sewing. It's absolutely not. It is not a sign. It is absolutely a sign of companies taking advantage of the money that was made and not appropriately designating it to the things it should be spent on. That is my full-fledged belief. More women, younger women, are sewing today than they have for the last 10 years. Our personal sales have been up 10% steadily for the last 5 years. So it is not a reflection on the sewing industry. Just please know that. I met you in a mini seminar at the Austin Hancock's. Yes, you guys. I was traveling to Hancock's all over the country. One little story. I was in Minneapolis. We made more money in 1 hour than Hancock's ever made in the history of Hancock Fabrics. We were doing a fashion show. It was awesome. It was just so much fun. You're a blessing and that your patterns are great and easy and fitting and sewing. Well, thank you, Gwen. Not everyone feels that way. Some people absolutely hate us and hate me. So I just have to tell you that. Thanks for sharing. I love the pattern paper. So much better and stronger than the tissue. Companies take advantage. It is so true. And thank heavens you made it through the challenges. We have made it through the challenges. There are no more challenges ahead of us, which is why I don't want to quit. I'm finally in the clear. I'm finally get to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And that is a joy. That is absolutely a joy. And so I can only, and you know why I'm so grateful for you all, because you all have stuck with us for all these years. Even when you didn't understand it, for 10 years, you've stuck with it. So I promise you, I'm honest and forthright to you all. I appreciate that you've been here all these years. We're sharing 28 years this year, and we will continue for many more. Thank you again, you guys. So we're going to say goodbye tonight, and we are way past time. I told you it would be short and concise, and I get excited about all this history, and I get sidetracked. Years ago, I found you. Oh, at Vogue, yes, Vogue Fabrics in Chicago, sure. All right, you all. Love you all, and we really appreciate you being here, and we'll say later. All right.